to the Not Without Right, a Shakespeare in the Public Domain podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dawn Monique Williams. And today I am joined by two of my best friends. Like, honestly, these folks are family. And I'm the reason that they even know each other. And for over a decade, they have been the co-host of the What's the Tea podcast, which you could find wherever you get your podcast. Um, and their podcast is like comedy, sports, pop culture, celebrity gossip, and all the cool stuff. I met both Nicole and Reg at Cal State Hayward, East Bay in the theater department. I've worked with them both as theater artists. Once upon a time, Nicole and I were founding members of a theater company or two. So we all have a very long history. We go way, way back, and I'm super excited to welcome them to the podcast. Hello, friends.
Hi, very happy to be here. Thank you. I'm so excited for this venture for you.
Long time listener, first time caller.
Everything I learned about podcasting, I learned from you.
We're sorry. We're sorry.
Yeah.
Apologies.
No, I'm really excited to have you both here. And of course, I want to start with just having you each just tell us who you are, whatever it is you think we should or shouldn't know. I'm going to throw it to Nicole first, just because I've known her the longest.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, as much as I would love to claim to be the mother of this house, it is you. None of these connections happened if it wasn't for you, because you introduced Reggie and I, and then that tree spawned, and then it's like a web at this point. Yeah, so who am I? It's a very interesting question. This recent winter solstice has me really asking myself, who am I? I would call myself a retired actress at this time, but as always, if any one of my smart, brilliant, talented friends would like to take me out of retirement, discussions can be had. Currently, I work a day job in a place that I don't talk about on the internet, which I love. And I'm just still kind of an analog girl in the digital world, super hippie, progressive Christian chick who loves to watch theater. I don't know if I'm a theater maker any longer, but I do love watching it.
Reggie D.
That's
the king of community theater.
The king.
The king.
The king of community theater. My Instagram bio says that I'm a failed tennis prodigy, but I really feel like, apropos of this conversation, I'm a failed law student because I was on a life trajectory until I met Dawn Monique Williams. And I think, I could be rich if not for you, Dawn. It's your fault that I'm broke. No, I am a theater maker. I moved to New York after living in the Bay for a while. I worked as an actor in New York, and now I have been really fortunate to expand the ways that I make theater. So I'm also a writer and a director, and I work at an institution. Google is a thing, so it will take 2 seconds. I'll just do it for you. I work at Arena Stage in DC. And I am so grateful, actually, is not even as strong of a word, but I deeply cherish and treasure you taking a moment to see me very early in my artistic journey when I didn't even think that was a possibility for myself. And so it's really an honor to have this sort of full circle moment with you to talk about Shakespeare. I think about doing raggedy ass plays in basements where rats were crawling on me and all kinds of shenanigans dealing with the racist of the schism. Like and you know, I started my career like at the height of multicultural casting and people being like, you can't play the Prince and Cinderella because who's gonna play your parents? And like, you know, all kinds of shenanigans and to be at an interesting place at the industry where I'm like, has there been progress? I don't know. Or they're just different problems in the same clothes. It's unclear, but it is such a joy to be with you in this very new venture in your artistry. And I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you so much. The viewers are gonna think that I just pay guests to gas me up. I don't. I don't pay the guests anything. Now,
No,
if
no,
somebody wanted to come through with like a brand deal, a sponsorship, then I would love to be able to compensate my guests. But these people are doing this out of the goodness of their heart. Speaking of basements and rats, I've worked in that basement and I've worked with Nicole in basements, and there is some synergy. Romeo and Juliet is my favorite play of all time ever, and it is a play that we all have in common. Nicole has played Juliet to my nurse, and Reggie, I saw your Tybalt in said basement. So I would look, where are y'all at with Shakespeare? Who is Shakespeare to y'all? Where are y'all at with that?
I mean, it's one of the longest relationships I've had ever in my life. And as of late, I've had to put down my torch for some people who I really love and respect. So these days, I kind of treat everybody the same, like admirer of the work, can't vouch for the human. Because what we know, and I'm just tired of being disappointed by people whose work I love. So I'm just sticking to the work. And very excited that I'm going to see Denzel and Jake Gyllenhaal in March do Othello. That's another one that brings college memories up and offline, Dawn. I'll tell you which. But I still very much love the work, and I really enjoy seeing what people do with it. Even still, I have a deeply held belief that if you modernize Shakespeare, you need to tell me why I couldn't text Romeo to tell him that I was playing dead. So you have to figure it out for me. Like, the cell phone lines are down, something. But if we're gonna do a version of Shakespeare where I could spoil the plot, show me why I didn't. Other than that, I'm, in for a penny, in for a pound still, especially with this play, which is not the greatest love story ever told. It is the tragedy of the man of God.
It is the greatest love story ever told. Just so we're clear. And the tragedy of a man of God. Like, yes.
But he was just all up in Rosalind DMs.
Okay. And I knew that boy when I was 16 and I fell in love with him anyway. It's a thing. Reginald, what about you? What's your relationship with Shakespeare?
I mean, I think it's fascinating that in those plays there's such a broad swath of the human experience presented. I think I find myself most particularly curious about the way that Shakespeare wrote Black characters. Because I'm like, I know playwrights who write new work. I think, part of the reason I have the career that I have is because of my relationships with playwrights who write new plays and are thinking about me as an actor in those plays. I'm like, who are these niggas? Who was like, where the fuck did Aaron come from? Like, where did Othello come from? Who you know what I mean? And I I also think about like how fascinating of an experience it was that like he was just, I mean, how tinfoil are we going here, Dawn Monique Williams? Because I'm like, I know there are some things people have said on the internet in the
All
ether
of it.
that
All of it.
Shakespeare didn't write all in motherfucking plays.
Yes.
And you know what I mean? So like
Yes.
I'm taking my tinfoil hat off for 2 seconds to say that like engaging in the mythology that like this is all the brainchild of one person who like revolutionized Western drama and the English language and the plays I think are I feel like everything we do is a response to Shakespeare. Everything in Western theater is some kind of response to Shakespeare. I mean, like Shakespeare gave us August Wilson, Shakespeare gave us Ntozake Shange, Shakespeare gave us, like Lynn Nottage, and I love.
I thought you were about to say Lin-Manuel Miranda, and I was about to be like,
Well, true, right? He did write a little Burnham Wood Comes to Dunsinane in Hamilton.
Listen, I agree with
Just
you,
love
but
is love.
coming out of his mouth, it would have shocked me.
Love, love is love. Love is love.
Did you say love is love?
Is love. And he that loveth not, no, it's not love, because love is love.
Okay.
Yeah, I have I feel like it is Shakespeare's words are as close to a spiritual text for me as it gets when I think about how to marry poetry with pathos. And I'm really just like, who are these niggas?
Yeah. I love that. And you also played Aaron, and I want to come back to you playing Aaron because I think this is a very underrated character that I have a lot to say about. What I want to do first, though, is ping over to Nicole because Nicole and I have had these conversations, right? Just to remind the viewer, all three of us went to the same undergrad. Well, we went to various undergrads, but but we culminated our collegiate experiences at the same undergrad.
And most of us graduated.
Not all at the same time exactly, but Nicole and I did have some of the. I mean, we all had some of the exact same professors, but Nicole and I had some of the same acting professors. And using my statements, I know that I was.
You say professor, I say bully, but it's great. Whatever.
I was told that I could not do Shakespeare because I had an African American accent. And
also, I was as well, probably by the same person.
I am Spartacus.
Still, I mean, like my rational brain can make sense of what this means, but like my emotional brain can't, especially somebody like me who all the time prior to that was told I talk wide, I speak.
You know what I mean? A coconut, I'm an Oreo, I'm all this shit, but because of my thick tongue, my nigger tongue, I can't
That was, to me, that was the most mind-blowing thing about the entire experience is my whole life being told I sound white or I think I want to be white. And then I'm like, to be or not to be. And he was like, ghetto. Like, what?
Except I was told it by a Black person. And I was just like, what's happening, America?
I mean, same religion, different denomination as the person who told it to us.
I don't have no problem because I will invoke his name because I love him so dearly. Edgardo de la Cruz, one of my greatest mentors, who I imitated very often in my early directing.
Your early work.
My early work is the person who told me I could not do Shakespeare. And he was wrong about that, right? About several other things, but wrong also about a lot of things.
I'm sorry, just a quick point of privilege. This is a video podcast, so people can see. Can you raise your hand if you've directed Shakespeare at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival? Yeah. I just wanted to check our facts. Check our
credentials. And I wish that I had whatever Dawn had, because not only did he tell me that, he told me that I was too fat. I'd have to lose 40 pounds if I ever tried to go be on camera. I would only be cast as the funny fat friend. And like, I listened and was like, you know what? I'm not going to pursue this career because I don't have, first of all, skin thick enough to endure this in every casting office. And also, I am a little ghetto, and I probably might cuss somebody out.
Well, look, this is something that you and I have talked about before too, Nicole, that like but I think Macbeth, think Lady Macbeth is that. I don't think Lady Macbeth is like, give me the daggers. Like, she's like, why are you holding these damn knives? Hashtag spoiler
Infirm
alert.
of purpose is basically calling him a bitch ass nigga. Like, let's keep it a bean.
She's like, you bum bitch.
Correct.
Give me the knife. Because yeah, and I, you know,
Literally.
and
You're
I
gonna
think,
fuck this up.
and it's a question of accents, right? I feel like the American standard accent is non-existent. So when we're talking about you have too strong of an African American accent to do Shakespeare, it blows my mind in so many ways, because most time people do Shakespeare and there are various different English accents, or like I've seen maybe one production of Macbeth when people had a Scottish brogue, and it kind of worked because they were all Scottish. But the accent thing to me is interesting, because it's like, okay, so Black people can't be on the news or sportscasters or whatever, because there is a way to do the American standard broadcast accent and also still sound like a Black person, whatever that means to you. And I think that there's this thing of, the thing that I got at my first school, and I wish I had stayed there, but the department director told me kind of the thing that Reggie heard was, you're so talented, unfortunately, we can't cast you too broadly because you can't be related to so-and-so, whatever. So I came home where I thought it would be different than that, but at least there I got like really great education. And when I played Helena, the director was like, no, I would love to hear your actual accent. Like, I want you to do Helena the way that you talk, because I cast you and I want you. And then he helped me along by having a jazz blues pianist playing Someday My Prince Will Come underneath me, so I could let it all be.
That's beautiful.
I saw your Helena, and you know, there's actually so many additional textures when they just let us be, because how more deep and layered can the role be when a tall, which to me you are, like you're the perfect Helena to my Hermia, tall Black woman says, call you me fair. That's fair again, unsay. Because I'm not, wait a minute, y'all was just, like doing your thing over her.
And I think you saw me and Suzanne. So the Hermia was also Black. Yeah. So that was the second time I did it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one I saw. So I think there's so much more that we can get out of Shakespeare if they just let us be us. Also, I'm from California and we don't have an accent. So
we do. Unfortunately, now that I don't live there anymore, I get clocked so hard, and it's really embarrassing when people can tell me exactly where I'm from. I'm like, I don't understand how
you from the Bay, huh? You
right,
from the Bay,
right? I'm like,
and I'm not even saying hella or like, yeah, that I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, oh shit, oh okay.
Don't be about my business. Don't be my business. But I do want to come back to this, Aaron the Moor, because we do know that Shakespeare wrote for particular actors. I love that you talked about working with living playwrights who are creating roles for you, because we know this is what Shakespeare did. He wrote for a company of actors. He wrote Helena for a very particular gangly 13-year-old boy.
Yep.
Right. For a boy.
Actually, high key, he wrote it all for himself, but he was like, let me get my friends to act it out after I've already made it up in my head.
Ooh, I was about to, okay, I'm gonna put this to the side for a second, because
oh no, are you drinking alcohol?
No, I just, there are playwrights who act that way now. That's all.
Oh.
We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to who are our American Shakespeare's. We're gonna get to that. But it is a curious thing. I mean, as far as the records show, as far as we know, there were no Black actors on the English stage. So we certainly know there were Black people in London. There were Asian people, there were Arabic people, there were all the peoples that you would find in London today were in London during Shakespeare's time and may have been able to see the play. But well, from what we understand historically, only white male actors went on the stage. So it's like, who is this actor that put on the boot black to play Aaron? Like, who was Shakespeare writing for and why? I ask this question a lot. Like, why did Shakespeare write Black characters?
Yeah.
Why did Shakespeare write women if he knew that these actors weren't available to him? And I like Nicole talked about, right? Like, I'm like, we all get to have at least one problematic fave. Like, we each can just have one. And we each get to be the arbiter of like where that threshold of like, no, this person is canceled, or like, well, I can appreciate the art and not, and separate. We all, because like you said, Nicole, as soon as you like somebody, as soon as you are like, ooh, then it's like,
soon as you save his name in your phone, he start acting up.
As soon as you buy the vinyl deluxe copy of the album, he goes off his meds, and you're like,
as soon as you pay $350 for a work of art painted in this man's image, he gonna say slavery was a choice.
You're like, turn the mic off.
So, doing the role of Aaron, what drew you to it? What did you call upon? Did you feel like you were pushing against something from a white man's dramatic imagination? Like, how did you own that role?
I would love for Nicole to turn her video off during the retelling of this story, because I don't need any non-verbal commentary from the gallery of peanuts.
You know what? Fair.
So when I was playing that role, and I think early in my career, I like, because I wasn't working with the same kind of like professional rigor that I am now. So I think it was all kind of for fun, truly, because I certainly wasn't making enough money to like support myself. So it was like, oh, this sounds fun. And I was part of a company that and they had chosen this play, and I think it was already sort of like a sign that I was going to play Aaron because I was the only Black person in the company. And of course, we were doing Titus. And what is hilarious is, like, I think during like a week before we started rehearsal, I got dumped because I work too much, a theme that is never been repeated by anybody else I've ever dated before or after. And so I was just in such a profound place of like grief and then rage and then grief and then rage and then grief and then rage. Like, I was like, thank God I'm playing Aaron the Moor in Titus Andronicus, because I have a place for this to go, because I didn't have the health insurance for therapy. So Shakespeare was my 6 weeks of therapy, and I was angry and mad, and I loved that little baby, that little mixed brown baby doll that they had. I put all the love and hope and optimism I had into that little brown baby. And I think it I sort of painted with a real broad brush because the wound was fresh. I was like, oh, I hate everybody, like, in this play. And I think because I was the only Black person, I think it was perceived by the audience by like, oh, there's a lot of racial animus. And I was just like, no, I hate all of you. No, I just hate everybody. So like, if we were all Black, I would have hated everybody. If you know what I mean. And I also think the challenge of that play is it's off like Shakespeare's often directed by non-Black directors. which makes you a miracle. Um, but I think it was challenging because like I was in a place with my own relationship to my race that like I the thing I felt the loudest and most present was to make it okay for everybody for me to be Black. Like I was like, I'm not going to take up too much space. I'm going to be very agreeable. I'm going to be very okay. Just going to put my head down and do my work and like not really make talking about this an issue. And I'm so happy I've grown as an artist and as a person to understand what it means to take space. But also, like, I think if we were trying to have those questions during rehearsal, I don't know that anybody was equipped to like have them with me. Um,
Yeah.
so Patrick, if you're listening, if you have internet wherever you are, thank you because you gave that performance of Aaron a lot more complexity that I don't really know that like it would have had without you. So God bless you. I hope you have running water wherever you are.
My soul has left my body. He's saying names, Jesus.
But I used that Titus in a job talk once. I mean, I didn't get the job, but
Their loss.
and
Their
and
loss.
and it was I will just to clarify for the viewers, it was an academic job talk. So when you interview for these teaching positions, you have to like do a teaching demo or like present a paper. And I was talking about like multi-ethnic casting in Shakespeare plays, and it's I think sort of a given in the text that Aaron be Black. He calls himself Black. But something that was really exciting about that production was that the Tamara was also played by a multi-ethnic woman, mixed race woman, not Black, but of Asian descent.
Yeah.
And I have always wanted to play Tamara, like always in my heart wanted to play Tamara. And I could never figure out how to make that happen. And I one time did a costume design, like a paper project where all the actors wore like nylon, like mesh, just so that I, as a Black woman, could play Tamara. Now, that's sad because I could just
Not
play.
Kanye stealing from you with the nylon over the faces. You better sue.
But like, also, like, I could just play Tamara.
Right.
Like, just in my fullness as I am, I could play Tamara, and we could lean into some other, like, to Nicole's point about how we gonna make it make sense. We just have to do the work of like making it make sense. And if Aaron is darker complected than me, which isn't hard to do woefully, then we could have an even more fuller conversation about how colorism is operationalized. But anyways, look I could go on and on and on.
I mean, if you want to talk about colorism, just go down to the Majestic and watch Gypsy because my Lord.
Baby, I still haven't recovered. I still haven't recovered. Like
when she
I would like
that child in that blonde wig, I was like, does anybody know what's happening right now?
They did not know.
I'm all the way here in California. I hope it runs long enough that I get to see it because Audra is one of my queens. But I hear that what George has done is make it make sense.
It's a Black show. It's so easily translated to these Black people, and there's so many Black people on stage, and like the colorism piece adds something, a little spice to it, but it is diabolical. This, like, you're not supposed to root for Mama Rose, but sometimes people do.
Well, too bad.
I always have. I
couldn't. I was horrified. Like, Audra was transcendent. I was in the front row. She spat on me. I saw wig lace. I had a transcendent experience, and I will tell you, this woman is a giant of an actress, and the pathos, and like, it was just, I felt like I was watching Shakespeare.
Yeah.
To be honest.
I love the musical Gypsy, and just recently somebody was like, "Oh, it's sort of like just drivel, like the first." And I was like, "Have you ever been a Louise? have you ever had a Mama Rose? Have you ever been a Mama Rose and a Louise like
At
rolled
the
up
same
into
time.
one? I was like I am both Louise and Mama Rose. I am both like, somebody tell me when is it my turn? Don't I get a dream for myself? While also being like, if Mama was married, like if we could just get like do something with this woman, please let me be free.
Please.
When Herbie basically was like, "You're never gonna marry me," I almost leapt, like dove headfirst off the mezzanine. I was in the front row of the mezzanine, and I was just like, I think I've lived enough. I think I'm going away now forever. Like it was just, yeah,
When
yeah.
he leaves her, there's a moment that like she's crying. I would like her tears to receive a special Tony Award. Just the teardrops. Just give the teardrops a Tony.
And also just technically knowing what the act of crying does to your soft palate and just
Baby.
like the muscle to be like, I'm gonna have this emotional experience, but also raise my soft palate enough to sing the mess out of this song is just like I okay, sure. I've also been on Broadway. The play I was in won a Tony. So like same girl, same. But how the hell?
What she's doing in this show, I would like to join a class action suit. It would you say Troy Maxon and Monique from Precious
Yeah,
is what she gave.
correct.
Oh, I must
You
see
have
it.
to go.
She's
I
You
must
have
see
promised
to
a
it.
go.
year. So I think you have a year from opening to see it.
Yes. Well, and definitely, I mean, with shows like that, I love to see it before the Tonys so that I could just be like, I saw when it was everybody, the original, the pre-Tony. Because I
Actually, I saw
Oh
it
yeah.
the night after they opened, and we got an understudy for Louise. So who knows?
oh
She was great.
well,
She was great.
Reginald, not you just casually dropping like, oh, and I was on Broadway and the show I was in won a Tony. Like we caught that.
Well, it won
We
4, but I didn't win any. But yeah, but I didn't.
well, I'm remember how we all got started. Nicole teed this up. I am mother. Okay. So let's just remember that if you were on Broadway, that's
So were
because you're
you.
from my house. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My house brought you to Broadway.
Mm-hmm. It's
It
true.
did. It did. You said you better get on that stage and strip. Show them a
Sing
little
out,
shoulder.
Louise.
Show them a little shoulder.
Sing out Louise. Um, in other like current show news, I was just watching on the Netflix the new Tyler Perry John, the 6888, starring our
Oh,
good
that's
sis
him.
Kerry Washington. Well, I mean, the people are debating. The people are
Okay.
debating. Yes, technically, it is Tyler Perry. Um, he is credited as, writer, director.
Sure.
I think it is actually a pretty stellar film. And like, if you were into the like Hidden Figures vibe, then I think that you will really appreciate this. I have loved Kerry Washington since Save the Last Dance. Don't at me. That our good sis was like, you guys. I mean, like, good sis came through. She got Julia Stiles wrapped up. She tried to give her little gay lay
Wrap up.
action. I'm not mad at it.
The
But on the
gala.
Bianca Lawson, I'm gonna go out here and finish this shit.
Bianca don't age. She
A
does not age.
vampiress. A
Like she is
vampiress.
still paying 17-year-olds. I highly recommend the movie. There are some new sort of emerging actors in it that I think are just really stellar. And y'all know I don't really go hard for Tyler Perry like that. Like the Divorce in the Black or whatever. I was like,
I
I'm
was like,
not.
who did he divorce? But oh yeah, that
I'm
thing.
not.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
the
It
internet.
was, yeah. The thing is, the films are shot beautifully. That studio that he has down there, that it creates some lovely exterior. The plots just be very, very ridiculous. And then, like, I'm with it for a moment, but this one started on 5011 and just never came down. Divorce in Black, because the internet was like, this movie is crazy. I'm like, let me see. And like the moment you cut it on, like there's some foolishness at a funeral. Um, but the 6888 is on my list to watch. I did not watch Beauty in Black, but there was one recently that I was like, I didn't love it, but I also didn't hate it. What the heck? Mea culpa. It was not great.
Oh yeah, that was him too.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Oh, with Calendria.
Yes, there was another one too. I don't know. Keep talking.
Well, I have done a couple of Tyler Perry re-watches recently, which actually cultivated a greater appreciation. I had rewatched recently Daddy's Little Girls with
An
our
excellent film.
good McLean sisters. DJ Idris Elba is in that. And upon rewatch, I said, you know what? This is special. Like this is actually a good film. And like, could Tyler pull Idris today? I don't know. And I did a rewatch of what is it? Good Deeds, Mr. Deeds, the one with Sandy Newton, where she is the she works as custodial in his
Wait,
building.
we have to say it. Oh, it's spelled different, but it's spelled. She changed. She said we were saying her name wrong.
We have been.
Tandy Way. The 48-year-old actress had her name misspelt when she did her first film 30 years ago.
I thought she changed her name, but
I think we have been
Rachel
mispronouncing
Dolezal.
it. Yes, in
But
catchy.
her,
I think you said it right.
I
You
know her
said
as
Sandy.
Sandy.
there's a
Yeah.
W in there, and I'm like, is the W silent? Like, let me know, sis. I don't want to get it wrong.
But she is such a good actor. And in this Deeds movie, she works as custodial and then she's like sleeping in her van and fighting for custody of her kid. And you know, it's like the plots do be like extreme,
Good
like you said.
Good Deeds?
Good Deeds.
I don't know that I know that.
But she is so good in that I was like, you know what? Let me collect myself because everything Tyler haven't been bad. But I think part of my animus comes from being a theater artist, and anytime I'm talking to like non-theater relatives or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I'm a director, and they say, do you know Tyler Perry?
Those are the people that pronounce it theater.
I don't know Tyler Perry. And I wonder, why is this a theme for us as Black artists?
Because his stuff is like church entertainment. And so a lot of church people don't really do secular stuff. And so like they get to go see theater, but it's church on stage. It's entertaining. The songs and the singers are fantastic. The book, not great. But it's so many Black people's like
Like every new musical on Broadway.
Ooh, girl. It's it's just for Black folks, it's the extension of church. Those like, Mama, I Want to Sing or whatever. And like I wouldn't even go so far as to call it Chitlin Circuit because it's just its own universe. And I think that when people have that, because they went to a theater, they saw a play with people, and they think that that's what Black folks who do theater do.
I also think that there's a conflation, and I don't think the conflation is inherently bad, but like the experience of seeing something live in a room is theater.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's like there's entertainment, people are performing, and I think the sort of delineation between like, is it a script? Like, has it been workshopped? Is there a director? Who's the lighting designer? Who's the costume designer? Like, I think as theater makers, there's so much like detail and rigor and specificity that we know exists in like the height of what our art form is meant to do. I actually have a profound appreciation for what Tyler Perry and David E. Talbert and like all of these like people who have made Black people feel a sense of belonging in these buildings, what they've done, because I think it creates a kind of gateway to Black people actually having a relationship with August Wilson, with Terrell Alvin McCraney, with Lynn Nottage, with Katori Hall. Like I think we're like really close. But I think for so long the reaction has been like, "Ooh, I don't want nothing to do with this." That I think that it's been challenging for us to figure out how that I don't mean conversion in a sort of like obliquely like capitalistic way, but I feel like Black people are much more interested in seeing theater than conventional wisdom white people think, because like they pay hundreds of dollars and dress in their Sunday finest to watch a 3-hour thing where like everybody knows what's happening. Like somebody went to an Ivy League school, somebody's cheating, somebody has an oily chest, somebody like it is the same house with the 6 rooms, and you know, like it's all whatever. But the experience of having a cathartic moment together with people is like deeply meaningful. And so I feel and I was a like I'm not gonna hold you. I was a little bit like this with the Tyler Perry when I first had ambitions to be a professional theater maker, but that there was some folly in that because I think what he has done to Black people in theatrical spaces is really great. I'm frustrated that I think he feels the need to write everything, because I think that that is a kind of limitation, although I understand brand like allegiance or whatever, but I offer thanks to them because at least now my parents know what a theater is. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes. For me and my taste profile, it is often not the thing that I want to
That you seek out.
watch,
Yeah.
right? Like the Medea movies are just a little too broad for me. The same way that like I don't like Will Ferrell, right? So like that's just not my
They're
that's
not
not
this is why I'm a Tyler Perry truther, because we let Adam Sandler and whatever
Correct.
they do the thing and people call them geniuses, and Tyler Perry does the thing and people call him names, and it's the same thing.
and
There's just
I think Tyler Perry is the genius.
I
Now
agree.
he might look by the time this airs, he might show up on some problematic fave list. So like I don't stand Dawn Monique Williams. That's who I stand.
Hello.
but I think Tyler Perry is the genius, and I mean like I really would equate him with like an American Shakespeare. First of all, his body of work is prolific.
And
Mhm.
he writes
Okay,
everything, so there's really no debating about who
prolific.
wrote what. Yeah.
Now the writing, like you said, Reg, is where I'm a little bit like questionable. I think Tyler Perry is an amazing actor. I think he is such a dynamic, charismatic actor. I love to watch him perform. And I also feel like, aesthetically as a director, he's matured, he's grown. I mean, he has so many films, he has so many TV shows, like he has, and he really very, very akin to Shakespeare. He is writing for like a broad range of like taste, class. It's like he's a populist, right?
Yeah.
So that it's like
Right.
people who are into the bawdy, raunchy humor, the people like in Shakespeare's day, the like penny groundlings who were like illiterate, like you don't need to, now that you got your degree and everything, like you
Right.
don't need to to be that to come and see yourself reflected in Tyler Perry's work. And like you said, Reg, there is also going to be that character who like went to Ivy League, who went to law school, that character that's now in conflict with the family because they chose a different path, because they chose education or aligned themselves to whiteness or whatever. So, so I, and by opening this studio in Atlanta,
Yeah.
he has given so much. He has created so many opportunities for
For hundreds
Black
of actors
artists.
and directors and yeah.
Yes. Um and so I'm not mad at any of that. For me, it is that like, would you stop suggesting that just because I do theater, I somehow no Tyler, even though if he wanted to call me, we could talk. You know what I'm
For
saying? Like I
sure.
got some
For
ideas
sure.
I could pitch. Um,
My mother
and
raised
so
a slut, not a fool. I'll be damned.
That don't have nothing to do
um,
with that lady.
and what's really interesting is I remember when my kid, who's now 23, was young, and the stage shows were like it wasn't bootleg, but it was like the stage shows on the DVD. Um, she
Yep.
loved it. She
Mhm.
loved it. She would always fast forward though through the gospel. I was in it for the gospel. I was like, no, Tamala, what we are gonna do is listen to Tamala Mann sing down every
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
Every time.
Take
Um,
me to Medea.
so it's also we see how like that's how you get them. Like there are the people that are like, no, I want the comedy, I want the sketches, I want to see Tyler like start improvising and nobody can keep up. And I'm like, I would enjoy the gospel songs, please. Um, and when it made that leap to movies, the gospel was the thing, the music was the thing that largely got cut. But I was just talking to a friend. I was like, all the A-lister, I was like, our good sis Angela Bassett been in a Tyler Perry film, right?
Well,
Idris
then
Elba been in
Taraji
Tyler
said he was
Perry.
the first person to pay her rate.
We would not have a Sofia Vergara if it weren't for Tyler.
I mean,
I
he kept paying our ancestor Cicely Tyson.
yes,
Mary J.
yes,
Blige.
yes.
Well, this is the thing. I used to have the tendency to be uppity about the comparison. Like, I do real theater. You can find these plays at Samuel French was the dumb shit that I used to say. And I think what radicalized me is having a conversation with somebody who was making a judgment, wide cast judgment about people who enjoy Tyler Perry and classifying them as lesser than and uneducated and whatever. And I was like, my mama super rocks with Tyler Perry, and I don't believe her to be any of those things. And even if she was those things, you're still entitled to be entertained just because you are easily entertained. And I remember my mom, huh?
And not too much on my mother.
Hello, that was the turning point for me because I was like, you're not going to be talking about my mama because that's who you're talking about. Because her and all her church lady friends, it was an event for them to go see a Tyler Perry movie. They felt seen. They felt represented, and it would be before he started doing whatever. It would be plot lines that aligned with their little values and not too much cussing. And he's grown in that sense, and I believe that his audience has grown with them. But there was this little bit of like internalized anti-blackness that I used to do when people would compare what I did to Tyler Perry stuff. But those people are artists. They work just as hard as we all do. They're professionals in their field. And, like I think that it is this thing where I, as a Black person who watches theater, am probably closer sociologically and all that other socioeconomically to the people who go see the Tyler Perry plays than I am to the Broadway people. And it always frustrates me as a Black person that I see a lot of theater being made for white people. And a lot of times I feel like Black artists are performing Blackness for white people, where in these plays, in these theaters, it's FUBU, it's for us by us. And I think that there's a thing that is maybe not happening as much in theaters any longer, but the theater company will do their Black show and hire their Black actors, and then you kind of don't see them again. So I kind of love to be in a space where Blackness is celebrated and not a commodity.
Amen. Amen. And I think this is something that Tyler's work has reminded me of throughout like having institutional jobs. Like Reggie, I'm sure you could relate to this when it's like we work at these institutions and the narrative is, how do we get the young people? How do we get Black people? How do we get poor people? And then somebody inevitably from marketing will say, well, they don't go to theater. And it's like, that's a lie. That
That's
is
a lot.
a lie
And they
because
pay money to go to theater too.
yes, I mean, Black people come across all class divides. So yes, are some Black people poor? Yes. There are
Are some
also
white people poor? Yes.
absolutely. And there are also filthy, stinking rich Black people, right? So do we need to be thinking about like accessibility ticket price point? Absolutely, we must. And this idea that Black people don't have entertainment dollars is just a fallacy, right? Because I spent money to see Beyonce in concert. Um, so other people do. It's about what is the value add to their life, right? Like your programming is not speaking to them. Tyler Perry show comes to town. People are lined up around the block to see these. So it's a perfect counter argument when people are like, oh, Black people don't go to theater, or young people don't go to theater, or that people can't afford a ticket. And it's like, no, you haven't invited them in. You're doing the February Black History Month play, and you haven't done programming that speaks to them, that resonates with their values, that feel, like brings them joy, that feels uplifting. And Tyler has found his audience.
People
Are
will
you
pay
showing
for
up
it.
in the community where your theater is? Like, do you go to the schools where the children aren't all white to do your recruitment? Like, there's a lot of things that you have to get people interested. Am I gonna go see Fences at your theater? Sure. And then I'm gonna look through your program throughout the year and see that you aren't doing anything else that I want to see.
Well, it's also people will pay lots of money for something they assess value for. And like I think you look at the most recent revival of The Wiz that, I think was exciting to see the show back on Broadway for a very, for the first time in a very long time. And I think a lot of people were like, oh, I don't know that this was the fully polished version of what it meant to be, but it was doing $1.5 million a week because people found value in what was happening on stage. And so I think we are missing, and it's what happens when a lot of these institutions are trying to make decisions for communities that they're not involved in. And when they don't want to cede decision-making power to people who are, who have an experience outside of theirs. But people will come to art that they perceive value to. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is another reason why I love Georgia's take with this production of Gypsy, because Nicole, you said not just Chitlin Circuit, right? Which we put Tyler Perry on the Chitlin Circuit. Um, and George sort of illuminate
yeah,
this by sort of shining a light on the Toba circuit, right? Like the vaudeville houses and things that Black artists were allowed to perform in. And really, I think I haven't seen it, but I've been studying it, but really shines a light on that. We do not have American musical theater without Black people. We do not have vaudeville without Black people. And one of the uniquely American contributions to the sort of Western canon of theater is the American musical. And we don't have that without Black people.
well,
They
it's
were
also
at the
like
forefront.
this idea that from the beginning of storytelling, there's been a Western fascination with blackface. So it's like y'all, even when y'all didn't want us on stage, you still wanted us on stage because you were like, but what would a Black person say? You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
what would a Black person sound like? And then you get fill in the blank. I'll say any name of any non-Black person who is emulating their vocal styling from a clearly diasporal influence. And you understand that even from a atomic level, Western culture is rooted in Blackness.
Hmm.
Absolutely. It's like the number one American export. And we maybe don't say it that way. We maybe frame it as like hip hop or athletics
Black
or
culture,
Black people.
Black people.
I'm working on a paper right now for a conference presentation that is specifically about Kenny Leon's Much Ado that happened in the park in 2019.
Mhm.
And those choices and how those choices leaned into like a community cultural wealth aesthetic. Um, but more broadly, like what it means to let Black actors be Black, not sublimate that Blackness, not be like, oh, you have to change the way you speak to some stage standard, which is not even a real, it's a made up accent, right? That or the expectation that Black actors are playing white characters. And I took a line from Shakespeare, right? That literally there's a line in Twelfth Night that's like, he does it with more grace, but I do it more natural. And I just took that part of it, but I do it more natural. Um, And these plenty of comparisons have long been made between like Shakespeare and like hip hop and just music and rhythm and all of these things, and how like Black bodies and voices can find a home in these works.
It's one of the reasons why at my very big age I wanted to play Juliet, because I feel like there's nothing better than a sassy Black girl being like, "What satisfaction canst thou have tonight?" Like, freeing.
There's just there's cadence, there's I mean, like, right, like we probably are too close in age to have honestly played Juliet and the nurse opposite each other, but still just that banner of like of when it's like, I'm out of breath, and it's like, if you out of breath, how you have breath to tell me you out of breath? Like, just like, right, the way it's like, auntie,
Right.
no, we
Like,
just
no. And the thing is, I mean, I played Reggie's mama and we are merely 9 years and some months apart. But there's that thing of like that one scene in How to Get Away with Murder when Viola, I think, is scratching out Cicely Tyson's head or whatever, and they're just having a very Black conversation. And it's just a beautiful thing to be able to be the fullness of who you are and bring your upbringing and your culture to your work instead of having to water it down or wash it down to make it more palatable or more comfortable for white people. And the thing that I've noticed, specifically living in North Carolina, in Northern Virginia, why I don't code switch anymore at work, I hear these people with these deep Southern accents, very thick accents, and nobody is questioning their intelligence, their expertise, none of that. And I get it, the Southern accent at large gets made fun of for sounding dumb, but in a professional setting, I never saw anybody be disrespected or whatever for being a white Southerner. So I'm like, well, I'm Black.
There are at least 20 sitting United States senators
Who
with
sound like Foghorn Leghorn.
thicker than Meg and Pete.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're not going to do is tell me that a Southern dialect equals lack of intelligence.
Speaking of modern day Shakespeare's,
do a whole episode on Megan Pete, okay?
Listen.
I'm gonna do a whole episode.
I was at an audition for a play, and the playwright was like, I feel like it's important for these characters to speak in a particular dialect. It's like written into the script or whatever. And there was an actor who was a Black actor who came into audition, and the playwright was like, I just don't know. I can't really feel like I can't really hear the play unless they speak in this particular dialect. So that we gave them the note and they did it, and the playwright had a real challenge with it. A white actor came in to read the same part, had like it was giving Tennessee, and they were like, wonderful, wonderful. And the casting director was like, you weren't bothered by the Southern accent? And they were like, oh, honestly, I didn't even clock it. And you're like, ah, I see. Thank you for clarifying what we all suspected. Merry Christmas, and to all a good night.
Yes. We have to just hold that little moment of silence. Yeah, it goes back to the thing we were talking about too in our training of like, we wouldn't be able to do this or we won't be able to do that, or like why nobody bothered to work with me on like an Irish dialect. But it was so important that I like study Spanish so that I could be castable.
Correct.
And it's like, well, I'll actually have more Irish ancestry than I do Spanish. Not both, but that Irish is giving a good, you know.
Yeah.
And that Hispanic is like, I won't even mark that on the box when they say,
Right. It's
I
not
don't even
enough.
mark that on the box.
It's
Well,
not enough.
and I love now that I feel like that the world has gotten, I don't know that I love this term, but like, praise the Lord, that like the global majority has grown so much so that like the breadth of and dimension and like diversity of human experience exists so much so that like I did a play where I like was playing a Black person with a Russian dialect. And I was like, right, because there are
Right.
Black people who live there. And like, how nice to be working on a play where I can bring the fullness of my experience to a role and also be able to like have the extra saison of like, oh, I'm not from here. She's
Yes.
exotic fish. Thank you.
I think that's right. That that there are Black people on every part of the globe. Every part of the globe.
Everywhere. And I think it's the challenge of our limited American education and our American exceptionalism that I was way old when I found out things like that. Oh, like there are Black people in Holland. Oh, who knew?
When I went to Norway to visit my friend, I was so surprised. I was like, "Oh, I'm never going to see a Black person here." But because Norway is a NATO country, there are like hundreds of African people whose native language is Norwegian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the thing that makes me think too, you know, going back to this casting thing, Nicole, where you had a professor tell you like, well, I can't cast you because you can't be part of this family or whatever.
The department
Which
head.
it's so shameful because it's a fallacy. Because first of all, a lot I'll go back to using Shakespeare as an example. A lot of Shakespeare plays, it's only one parent. So we already don't know what the other parent is, coulda, woulda, shoulda. So already we can do what we want to do in the Shakespeare plays.
It's lazy. It's super lazy. It's a play. We are suspending disbelief. If the audience can't get past that I'm the Black auntie, then why are they here?
I was doing Our Town in high school, and the same thing happened to me. And to credit my theater teacher, whose name I will not say in case she's still with us. I know she has internet, unlike Patrick, so I could say his name. But she's since apologized to me. But like we had this argument when we were auditioning for the senior play. It was Our Town. Now I've seen old videos of myself performing, so like, ugh. But like when I tell you, I put that arch in my back and I tooted up my ass. I was giving you George motherfucking Webb, like giving it to you. And she called me in for a meeting and she was like, "Hey, I thought your audition was really beautiful. I think we're gonna have to cast."
You're Black.
And she's like, it's gonna be hard for you to believe that they're your parents. I was like, we're all 17.
And that wasn't the issue.
We're all 17. And like, I'm gonna play an old man and you're gonna put gray in my hair, and people are gonna believe that I'm suddenly not a 17-year-old Black person who weighs 6.5 pounds, but I can't play George.
In my professional career, a choreographer, because I made a decision not to be nude on stage, was mad that I didn't want to participate in the number because I thought the nudity was gratuitous. She was like, okay, well, my concept for the costume is white paint, and it really wouldn't work on your skin tone anyway.
Like,
it's gonna look better on my there will be a contrast.
It's crazy.
Also, like, white people aren't white.
It's like I say this all the time because my mother is white. So I know what it's like to grow up in a family of different racialized bodies. So there's no reason that can't exist on stage. And the audience can and should and will tell themselves whatever story they needed to tell themselves. If they needed to be like, well, I just figured that because the daughter was Chinese, she was adopted. If that's the story you tell, if you needed to do that math to get through the play, then do that math.
To bring it back, hundreds of thousands of Black people sit in a theater laughing because they believe a 6'5" Black man is a woman who's birthed generations of children.
I'm like, y'all.
Those wigs are hard.
Hard wig, soft life.
We just gotta get out of our own way. Like, you know, like y'all got by on blackface minstrelsy. And now you are telling me that I can't be cast because the audience won't be able to make biological sense of the.
Well, there's this study that I wish I could cite that like they polled white people and they felt less empathy for people of color, which is why like you have to have mixed casts in order to pull in the white dollar, which I think is so interesting because we as Black people and people of color have had to imagine ourselves in all white stories
As
for
everything.
forever. So it's so funny to me when I hear like white people who don't know things that we consider Black. It's that whole concept of people being Black famous because white people like didn't watch it. But kind of one of the wonderful things about growing up in the 80s and 90s is pop culture was just pop culture. Like I think white people watched Martin and all that, but these days there's not a lot of white people watching Sisters and The Oval and whatever, because they just have to see themselves in the story. But I'm just like, my whole life I've seen myself, and it's the whole thing with Elphaba. Elphaba was always
Literally.
Black girl coded to me. I always was like, she's Black.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
remember the pitchfork internet fury when Rue was Black in what
Yes.
Rue, who was supposed to be Black in the Hunger Games, Rue, who came from the district of Black people. That's when they was mad.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. In Twilight, when
Right.
Laurent was Black, and they were like, well, the book describes him as pale and pasty. Black people can. Hello, have you heard of ashy? Have you heard of it? We get pale, we get ashen. like, like, so now we can't be vampires, y'all. We can't be ghosts. We can't be flying witches.
Can't be
we
mermaids.
we can't, like, what? Like, y'all. Because for us, these stories, like you said, Nicole, there's already been like coded Blackness. That, I mean, I wrote a think piece on Wicked saying that they, like, I never needed a Black body for me to be like, I relate with Elphaba. I'll take this one. Yes, I will take our good sis Cynthia. Um,
The very talented person gets demonized because they will not compromise themselves to be a part of the regime. Huh? Not a Black person not at all.
The
Not,
person who everyone hates her and is afraid of her because of the color of her skin. It's so obvious. It was always that for me. It was always that.
yeah,
not the content of her character.
yep, yep, yep. Uh, Friends, I have kept you well past our designated time. This
So
has been
fun.
such a great conversation. We went there and back, and the whole idea is to talk about how we hold these things in the public trust, what it means for art to be in the public domain, and that it belongs to all of us. And I think you two have certainly proved that we are not without right. You two are very active on some social sites. I don't know if there's any handles or anywhere where you might want people to follow you for more hot take. But
I'm the most active on Bluesky. I'm Nick Jew, NICJU. My Instagram is Nick the Jew, so same spelling, just with THE in the middle.
Right.
I have an Instagram that I don't really.
You have fallen off. You started working at an institution and you went off the grid.
I was like, well, great. I'll do a proof of life story every 6 weeks. So you can follow me on Google Alert, and then you'll know where.
Not
where
a Google alert.
I'm-
Well, I will drop the given handles in the description below. I see a lot of YouTubers do this in the description below. I will also link to the What's the Tea podcast, which is right now on hiatus, but there's 10 years worth of episodes for you to get caught up on. I do make a feature very early, the way back in the 2013, 2014 of it all.
I'm gonna have to
I'm
go
on an
find it
episode.
and put it forward.
Yeah, put it back up.
So there's 10 years of material to keep you going while these two make some decisions about if they want to just join me permanently on this show or how we want to do that. Reggie, Nicole, my dearest loves, thank you so much for making this happen. I know you are busy people. And I just am so happy to kiki with you always.
Thank you for having me. This was fun. I like this little. So, whenever when we want to start talking about Kendrick Lamar, Bring Me Back.
Another modern day Shakespeare.
Bring Me Back.
Yes. I could say so much. So we will revisit. We will revisit Kendrick and Meg P. And Drake.
No, sign me out for that one. No hablo inglés.
Thank you both so much for joining me on today's show.
3, 2, 1. Let's go.